tactics. I don't fall for hard-to-get games. Do you know how much trouble and annoyance this behavior causes? Li Shulai picked up the lunchbox from the floor and apologized again, admitting it was all his fault. He offered her money as compensation and said, "If you need, I can get you another portion." However, Xiaoning, still irritated, replied, "1 yuan doesn't make a difference to anyone, just don't bother me again. Next time, watch where you're going, or if you get hit by a car crossing the street. Whose fault will it be?" she advised sternly. Li Shulai, upon hearing Xiaoning's words, simply said, "All right, you're a good person," and then drifted back into his thoughts. Considering how young Fei Long's problems had been reported by the media many times in his past life, seeing Li Shulai so nonchalant, Xiaoning's friend was surprised and said, "No way, is he crazy to just leave like that? Did he not understand your sarcasm?" Xiaoning was also confused, thinking, I can tell it's a hard-to-get game, but is he really still playing it? His skin is really thick. Her friend then suggested, could he have actually lost interest in you? He didn't even look at you. In the past, he'd cling to you and rush to help you with everything. Now, he just throws money at the problem. Xiaoning, getting angrier, replied, "Maybe because I pointed out his intentions, it must have hurt his pride." She told her friend to wait, while she went to get another meal, thinking, is this game fun for you? Do you really think I'd fall for such little tricks? A moment later, at the cafeteria dining area, Xiaoning approached Li Shulai and said, "I have something to tell you." Li Shulai, surprised, asked, "What is it?" Xiaoning's cheeks turned red as she started to blush, stammering, You still ask me what it is." Frustrated, she then snapped, "Nothing, just eat your food." She thought to herself, I hope you choke on it. Li Shulai, unfazed, simply told Xiaoning to eat as well, before turning back to his food and notes. Xiaoning sat down, watching him intensely focus on his books, paying no attention to her. She thought, what's wrong with him? I've been sitting here for 3 minutes, and he's only focused on shoveling food and looking at his notebook. He's really holding back from saying a word to me. Suddenly, Li Shulai noticed something and looked up. Xiaoning thought, is he about to burst and talk to me now? But then she realized he wasn't looking at her. Curiously, she wondered who he was looking at. As he turned, she saw a girl with blonde hair. Zhang Shuili, Xiaoning thought. So he's fallen for someone else. Zhang Shuili dresses up flashy every day, and her family is rich. Indeed, there aren't many men who don't like that kind of woman, Xiaoning sneered. A toad cannot dream of eating swan meat. Do you even know what kind of person Zhang Shuili is? Li Shulai, in your next life, be born into a better family if you want to pursue someone like her. Li Shulai calmly replied, You misunderstand, but I don't need to explain it to you. He finished his meal and said to Xiaoning, You can do as you please. I'm leaving. Xiaoning was taken aback by his response and retorted, Don't be too much. What Xiaoning didn't understand was that Li Shulai wasn't looking at Zhang Shuili because he liked her. It was because of what he remembered from his previous life. Professor Guo's life was completely ruined by Zhang Shuili's scheming. Not only did she destroy his career, but she also used her wealth and influence as a second-generation rich kid to twist the truth, bribe the media, and force him into a corner. Even his wife and child's lives were affected. They were ostracized, judged at work and school, and publicly shamed. To prove his innocence, Professor Guo had pleaded to the media, insisting that throughout his life he had been loyal to his wife, responsible toward his students, devoted to his son, and diligent in his work, always upholding his principles. Yet he ended up as the target of destructive rumors, which spread like wildfire. Professor Guo, unable to clear his name, chose death as a means to prove his innocence, hoping to be remembered as an honest man. In his final words, he declared that he had never coerced or sexually harassed any student. He had no regrets in life, except for the pain he had caused his wife and child. After saying those last words, he jumped from the college building in front of everyone. When Li Shulai arrived at the scene back then, he saw only the tragic sight of a falling body. The heartbreak he felt was indescribable. The professor's wife and child also witnessed everything, their hearts shattered. Unable to bear the loss, the professor's wife later committed suicide, leaving their 10-year-old son to be raised by others. A good family was destroyed just like that. But the real culprit, Zhang Shuili, was enjoying her life without a care in the world. She scoffed. That old man thought proving his innocence by dying would affect me? How laughable! Her friends agreed, saying, Exactly. Besides, he was already old. Sooner or later, he would have died anyway. Dying earlier just saves on burial costs. Zhang Shuili felt no remorse, knowing that whatever happened, her father could handle it with money. It's better he's dead, no evidence left. Life is precious. Why seek death? She added callously. Li Shulai, who had overheard everything by chance, felt a surge of anger. Zhang Shuili, you may never die well, he thought. Coming back to the present, he reflected, pursue her. Why would I pursue her? Not only will I not pursue her, but I'll also make her pay for her crimes. Xiaoning, noticing the anger on Li Shulai's face, grew frightened. Li Shulai, noticing her reaction, said, I know what you think of me. You believe I liked you, but now I don't, and you think I've turned my attention to another woman. That's why you're upset and sarcastic with me. He then asked her, in the finance industry we study, do you know what's most important? Xiaoning replied confidently, of course I know. These are basic concepts from class, forward-looking vision and persistent perseverance. Li Shulai laughed. Wrong, it's liquidity funds. Without liquidity, the capital market collapses. He continued explaining, the financial wizards you'll meet in the future. Their success largely depends on risk management and optimizing their liquidity. Whether it's stocks, bonds, futures, or derivatives, the principle is the same. As he spoke, Xiaoning found herself lost in his words. What on earth is this guy talking about, she wondered, but at the same time, it seems to make a lot of sense. Li Shulai advised her, just burying your head in books will make you a bookworm. You should start thinking about more serious things. Xiaoning was confused. Is he serious? She wondered. What was he even talking about? It felt like he was looking down on her. But deep down, she knew he didn't mean it that way at all. Before she could ask for clarification, he disappeared from in front of her. Frustrated, she shouted, Li Shulai! In anger, I got lectured and didn't even talk back, she thought, her mind racing with 1,000 ways she could have responded. Next time, for sure. Meanwhile, outside, Li Shulai was thinking, Xianxi Yumi, Ma Xiaoning is nothing special. How did I not realize in my past life that Ma Xiaoning was so shallow? As he recalled the past, he remembered that Xiaoning's friend once told her, I think Li Shulai really likes you. He seems like an honest guy. Why don't you consider him? People often say that marrying an honest person is a good choice, proving that honest people are still valued in the marriage market. However, Xiaoning told her friend, don't compare me to just any random guy. It makes me sick. But if he wants to go after me, let him. If he wants to be nice to me, I can't stop him. In his past life, Li Shulai realized, his perspective was too narrow. Being a sycophant, he was smitten by the slightest kindness from Xiaoning. He was completely infatuated with her. Who knows how much time he wasted? He even told Zheng Ming, the school beauty glanced at me. Could it be that she's starting to change her opinion of me? But now, when he remembers those things, he feels nothing but frustration, because in Xiaoning's eyes, he was just a pushover. But in this life, he resolved, I will cherish my time and start by not being a pushover. Rather than trying so hard only to become a laughingstock, it's better to become strong and unattainable. Building a business is better than dating. Yang Feilong's looks were always mocked, yet many people chased after him, calling him Dragon Dad. And beauties were always surrounding him. Appearance, inherent flaws, or low status. What do they matter? When power and strength gather within you, all these things become the finery that showcases your ability. Rejecting fake social games and focusing on the pursuit of wealth and power is the way forward. What I want, I will get. What I once didn't dare to imagine, which could only exist as daydreams, I will achieve it in this life. Moments later, in the boys' dormitory, Zheng Ming invited Li Shulai over to his place to watch the game tonight, mentioning that his parents were out for a business dinner, so they could watch all night. Li Shulai remembered that today was the World Cup group stage match between Japan and Croatia. Japan loses badly and fails to advance. Li Shulai told Zheng Ming, I'm not going. I haven't finished the study plan I set for myself today. He thought to himself, this game, which I've watched hundreds of times in my past life, how can it be more interesting than making progress on my plans? Time waits for no one. I need to start making progress, securing Feilong Tech, and achieving Step 1. Zheng Ming, surprised, asked, Are you serious? It's the World Cup. The World Cup that happens once every 4 years and you're not watching? You haven't really become a bookworm from studying too much, have you? It's just the two of us. Are you still pretending to be a model student around me? Li Shulai replied, I don't need to watch to know the result. I already know who's going to win. Jiang Ming didn't believe him, accusing him of bluffing, and asked, Do you dare to bet with me? Li Shulai responded confidently, Bring it on, I'm not afraid. Jiang Ming proposed, Whoever loses washes the winner's underwear and smelly socks. And by the way, I have socks piled up under my mattress, just waiting for you to wash them. Li Shulai smiled and said, No problem, although after hearing you, Jiang Ming, I wondered why there was a faint smell of soy sauce in the dorm. Turns out it's you. Jiang Ming, laughing, said, I bet Brazil will definitely win this time. They're a traditional football powerhouse, no doubt about it, Li Shulai countered. I bet France beats Brazil 3-0, and Japan loses tonight without scoring a single goal. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ming exclaimed, Are you deliberately talking nonsense? You really want to wash my underwear and socks that badly? Don't turn gay just from picking up a bar of soap, okay? Buddy, I'm straight, Li Shulai, now angry, retorted. Get lost. Starting today, I won't wash my socks. I'll just wait for you to wash them for me. Moments later, back at the boys' dormitory, Jiang Ming started laughing and told Li Shulai, I'm definitely going to win. There's nothing to be afraid of. Speaking of which, he asked, didn't you mention how prosperous the gambling industry is abroad? Who knows how many people get rich overnight because of the World Cup? Jiang Ming wondered aloud. When will they allow gambling in our country? I want to get rich overnight too. If I were abroad, I'd definitely be a gambling god. Li Shulai, who actually knew a lot about this, remembered that in his past life, he was a hardcore soccer fan. He could recite the scores and results of all past tournaments by heart. Guessing the outcome was a piece of cake for him. He recalled that in 2001, a football lottery was introduced domestically. In a perfect scenario, it could indeed make anyone rich overnight, rapidly accumulating wealth. However, as good as reincarnation might seem, the butterfly effect is a terrifying thing. Who knows if a butterfly flapping its wings might cause a tornado? Besides, he needed to figure out quickly what those golden lights were all about. In his past life, his luck was incredibly bad. Even though everything was in place, he always fell short by one move. He wondered, what if all my luck in this life was used up just to be reborn? If I lose the advantage of foresight after winning 2 or 3 times, wouldn't that be a loss? For now, he realized, he should try to maintain the timeline, let events happen as they originally did, and not make any changes. He told Jiang Ming, gambling is essentially just that, gambling. It's very risky and not something to be touched. Dreams are beautiful, but reality is harsh. In practice, it's not as simple as guessing wins and losses correctly. You only see those who get rich overnight looking glamorous, but not those who lose everything and end up in poverty. He advised Jiang Ming, for ordinary people like us, without any backing or connections, winning once or twice might be fine, but if you keep winning every time, wouldn't people suspect something fishy? What if they arrest you for investigation? Who knows which big shot might take offense and have you taken out? You might end up being kidnapped and thrown into the sea, not even knowing which big shot you offended. Even if you luckily get that much money, without some means of violent protection, you might have your throat slit the next day. Your family destroyed, people dead, having money but no life to spend it on. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ming was really scared. His whole body started shaking. He said to Shulai, I never realized you knew so much. Li Shulai gave his sermons like Buddha. Li Shulai turned to Jiang Ming and said, My friend, say no to prostitution, gambling, and drugs. Be a positive youth. Promise me, okay? After hearing what Li Shulai said, Jiang Ming's eyes filled with tears. After listening to you, I feel like a righteous person, he exclaimed. Then he asked, Shoo, did something really happen to you? Your thoughts have become so profound. Lately, you've seemed a bit odd, like you're hiding something, looking so preoccupied. Jiang Ming laughed and said, Is there something you can't tell me? Or is it that you're just not having any luck as a Senpai? Li Shulai replied, It's not like that. I've just realized that love is precious, but time is even more valuable. Instead of always thinking about side income, focus on solid work and improving yourself. Wealth can't accompany you for a lifetime, but skills can. Didn't your dad teach you this? Jiang Ming, annoyed, retorted, Stop letting my dad feed you this toxic positivity. A moment later, Jiang Ming asked again, Are you really not coming to watch the World Cup? I've already bought peanuts and beer. But once again, Li Shulai told him that he wasn't going. Seeing Li Xiulai so resolute, Jiang Ming said, "You're just being stubborn. What man wouldn't be interested in the World Cup? It's the World Cup." However, as a close friend, Jiang Ming couldn't shake the feeling that something must have happened in Li Xiulai's family. "He's probably too embarrassed to ask me for money," Jiang Ming thought, "and might be sneaking out at night to do part-time work. I'll be the understanding friend by his side and not expose him." He then asked Li Xiulai, "If something's wrong, you can speak up. If you need any help, I'll definitely be there for you." Li Xiulai reassured him, "You don't have to worry. Everything is fine." After hearing this, Jiang Ming headed towards his home to watch the match. Li Xiulai smiled, thinking, if, in my past life, Jiang Ming hadn't disappeared due to his family's bankruptcy, when I went bankrupt, he might have been the only one willing to help me. As Jiang Ming stood outside the door, he said, "No matter what, I'll always be here for you, brother." Li Xiulai decided that in this life he wouldn't let good people go unrewarded. Later at the computer lab, Li Xiulai was using the college computers to complete his mission. He was creating software that balanced innovation and readability with a clear structure and no redundancies. It was definitely an astonishing program design for this era. He thought to himself, hard work pays off. It wasn't in vain that I rushed to the computer lab right after class. Li Xiulai finally completed a satisfactory first-generation e-commerce program. However, he didn't expect that operating computers from this era would feel so nostalgic. He grabbed the CD containing the program, thinking when Yang Feilong sees this CD, he might just kneel down and call me Dad. A moment later, in the hallway, Li Xiulai saw Zhang Shuili with Mr. Lin, who had kiss marks all over his face. Zhang Shuili was asking him to do something for her. Upon seeing this, Li Xiulai thought, with that scheming look, she must be up to no good. Zhang Shuili is probably doing something with Mr. Lin to get good grades. He continued thinking, another victim. She's probably using some leverage she created to achieve her unspeakable goals. Lost in memories, Li Xiulai recalled an incident from his previous life. He had accidentally overheard a conversation between two girls. One of them asked her friend, "Do you think what happened to Professor Guo is true? He ended up so tragically. If it's false, what does Zhang Shuili gain from it? She has everything. Why would she ruin her own reputation?" Her friend replied, "What reputation? After this, she still maintains her pure and innocent image. Money isn't everything. There are plenty of wealthy and powerful people at school, but she's the only one who always gets the best opportunities. Don't you think there's something fishy about that?" Excited, the first girl asked, "What's going on? Tell me." The other girl explained, "One of my roommates told me Zhang Shuili often stays out all night, having unclear relationships with many teachers and school leaders. Someone like Professor Guo, who sticks to his principles and refuses to compromise, ended up jumping off a building. Those who couldn't resist her allure are repeatedly threatened and coerced into doing shady things for her. You know Wang Quan dropped out because she offended Zhang Shuili and couldn't stay at school anymore." Her friend asked, "But why do those teachers just listen to her?" The girl replied, "What else can they do? Teacher-student relationships are sensitive, and many of them have families. If they want to keep their jobs, they have to endure it. Plus, she always keeps evidence of her flirtations." The girl with pink hair got angry and wondered, with so many people, why hasn't anyone exposed her true nature? The girl with orange curls responded, "Who dares? With her methods, you wouldn't even know how she destroyed you. She just finished off Professor Guo, didn't she?" Suddenly, both of them noticed Li Xiulai, who had been listening to their conversation from behind. Upon seeing Li Xiulai, both girls immediately stopped talking and started to leave, but Li Xiulai, angered, stopped them and demanded, "Tell me everything you know." The orange-haired girl, clearly frightened, told him, "I'll tell you, but I just heard it from someone else. It might not be true." In the present, Li Xiulai wondered if that male teacher was also being blackmailed by Zhang Shuili. No one would have expected that someone as well off as her would resort to seduction and unspoken rules to play the campus version of a honey trap. Li Xiulai smiled to himself, thinking, let her be smug for now. Those who achieve great things must prioritize and endure hardships. But the only goal I have now is to take down Yang Feilong. I can't waste extra energy on her, or I'll get stuck like glue, wasting precious time that could be spent seizing opportunities. He then thought to himself about Zhang Shuili. Just wait. You used money to drive Professor Guo to his death, but one day you'll fall into an abyss because of that same money. I will be the one to create that abyss for you." As Zhang Xueli left, Li Xiulai came out of the computer lab. Lost in thought about Zhang Xueli, he wasn't paying attention to his surroundings. Suddenly, he bumped into a beautiful girl who was carrying a stack of books. The girl fell to the ground, and all her books scattered. Li Xiulai quickly apologized and offered her a hand to help pick them up. However, the beautiful girl politely refused, saying, "You don't have to. I can do it myself." As he bent down to help anyway, their hands accidentally touched. She blushed and quickly pulled her hand away, looking a bit shy. Li Xiulai apologized again, explaining that he had been lost in deep thoughts and hadn't been paying attention to where he was going. The girl reassured him, "It's okay. I was in a bit of a hurry as well." As Li Xiulai got a closer look, he suddenly recognized her. "Isn't this Liao Kexin?" In his previous life, she had become a best-selling author and was also his idol. She had burst onto the literary scene as a dark horse, with her debut novel selling over 1 million copies. She was renowned for her writing about urban youth, and her works explored life beyond romance, touching on deep themes. Her writing was exceptional, and with just a few strokes, she could bring characters to life, making them relatable and resonant. When Li Xiulai realized that his idol was now his schoolmate, he felt both proud and honored. Without thinking, he excitedly called out, "Liao Kexin!" Startled, Liao Kexin asked, "Do you know me?" Realizing that he had let his excitement slip, Li Xiulai quickly made an excuse. "I saw some of your articles in the school journal," he said, starting to praise her work. "You write beautifully, with words that sparkle like gems." But in his mind, he was thinking, who could resist being excited to meet their idol, especially a younger version of them? He continued, "I happened to attend a school event once and saw you receiving an award on stage. That's how I remember you." Hopefully this explanation works, Li Xiulai thought. Liao Kexin blushed, accepting his explanation without any suspicion. But as he looked at her, Li Xiulai remembered how, in the past, at press conferences and in photos, she appeared dignified and elegant. Now, seeing her younger self, she looked so shy and cute. Meeting my idol in her youth is such a treat, he thought, feeling both happy and emotional. Being a fan is never a waste of time. Gathering his composure, he asked, "Where are you taking all these books? I can help you carry them." Liao Kexin, still a bit nervous, smiled and replied, "You don't have to worry. I can carry them myself." Seeing Liao Kexin's expression, Li Xiulai quickly clarified, "I don't mean anything else. I just want to make up for knocking over your books and wasting your time. Besides, I'm kind of your #1 fan, and I can't help wanting to chat more when I meet my idol. Don't think I'm weird." However, Li Xiulai couldn't help but remember that in her past life, as her #1 fan, he never had the chance to get to know her before she tragically committed suicide due to depression. Her dysfunctional family was the main cause of her death. He vividly recalled a news article he had read on the internet. Liao Kexin commits suicide at home, found with cloth wrapped around her neck. The article questioned, is it a distortion of human nature or a consequence of depression? When reporters asked her parents about the tragedy, they coldly replied, "Depression? What kind of illness is that? It's just being overly sensitive, overthinking things. We raised her to this age, so what's wrong with asking her for money? Oh, and the copyrights and royalties from her books? We won't miss out on a single cent. If she wanted to end her life, how is that our fault? If she dies without giving us money, that's being unfilial. It's really frustrating. As her younger brother, I'm still waiting for her support. She's so selfish. Girls are born to contribute to their families." Back in the present, Liao Kexin agreed to let Li Xiulai help her carry the books. With a big smile on his face, Li Xiulai cheerfully said, "Classmate Liao, please lead the way." However, he knew deep down that Liao Kexin was a sensitive girl who easily felt guilty. In this life, he vowed to himself, I won't let her family manipulate her again. Besides, he knew that she was going to become a top-tier author in the future, incredibly influential. Getting to know a future big shot early is all benefit and no harm. Successful people not only seize every opportunity, but also build networks and resources. Later, as they walked across campus, Li Xiulai casually said, "You know, you remind me of a cousin I have back in my hometown. Both of you love to write and are very talented. If I remember correctly, she won first place in a writing contest there, but she wasn't as lucky as you. She had a younger brother, and her family favored males, so she had to quit her studies. Now she works in a factory, and her dreams were shattered. I think telling her this much should be fine, Li Shulai thought, watching for her reaction. Upon hearing this, Liao Kexin's expression turned somber. With a sad look on her face, she quietly admitted, I also have a younger brother, and my parents favor him more than me. Seeing Liao Kexin's eyes well up with tears, Li Shulai immediately apologized, feeling guilty for making her sad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. My cousin once told me that she regrets not fighting harder for her dreams. That's why I think you must keep writing. One day, you'll become famous because of your work. It would be like carrying on her dreams as well. Inwardly, Li Shulai reflected on what he knew from his previous life. Liao Kexin had been overworked, practically a slave to her own family, constantly supporting them while they leeched off her success. Her big break had come when her writing career was about to take off. He recalled how her manager had approached her at a cafe, excitedly asking, Liao-sensei, could you take on this project? Our editor trusts you a lot. The schedule is tight, but we need it by the end of January. If you take this opportunity, you'll have so many chances for promotions in the future. Plus, we'll pay you 20% in advance for the project. Her manager at the editorial convinced her that it was a rare opportunity. You can always find another job, but chances like this are scarce. However, when she informed her family that she wanted to quit her regular job to focus on her writing, they were furious. They berated her, saying, We put in so much effort to send you to college, and what did we get out of it? That busy job barely pays you $3,000 a month, and you only give us $1,000 from it. You'd be better off marrying that old man Zhang. Becoming Mrs. Zhang would make life easier. You'd just have to play cards with him every day. More importantly, you'd be able to send money to the family. Even though Liao Kexin had graduated college, her family treated her as nothing more than a tool. Her brother had squandered their money and was about to get married, and they saw her as their financial safety net. In desperation, her family even tried to marry her off to an old neighbor to get his money. Crushed under the weight of their demands, she gave up on quitting her job. Due to this, she had no time to write for quite a while, and she missed out on a huge opportunity. The author who replaced her on that project became a celebrated young writer, a new shining star in the literary world. She often saw posters of this writer on her way home, plastered with headlines like, A New Star Emerges, and winner of many literary awards. She couldn't help but imagine herself in their place, wondering what could have been. Instead, she spent her days working overtime at a dead-end job with a low salary. Any money she earned vanished as quickly as it came because she had to send it all to her family. After paying her rent, there was barely anything left for herself. The dream of becoming a great author seemed to slip further and further away. Liao Kexin always sent money home, terrified that if she didn't, her mother would scold her again. If she didn't send enough, there would be no end to the complaints. Under these circumstances, she fell into a deep depression. But luckily, writing became her only escape. Although it was late in her life, she managed to make a name for herself and emerged as a rising writer. However, her success didn't last long. Despite earning good money, her parents always found ways to take it from her. Her mother would threaten her, saying, If you don't buy a car and a house for your brother, I'll hang myself. Not just that, her mother would also threaten to tell everyone that she wasn't taking care of her parents. Her brother, now addicted to gambling with the safety net of her earnings, became even more reckless. Her mother continued finding new excuses to demand money from her. One time, she told Liao, I don't care what you do, but you need to give us $2 million within 2 days. We know you have the money. You just sold the rights to your new book for adaptation. Facing all this pressure, Liao Kexin had thought about cutting ties with her family many times. But every time she tried, her mother would show up at her workplace, dressed in rags, and loudly announce, I'm Liao-sensei's mother. I just want to see my daughter. Did you know she lives in a luxury house while we, her family, live in hunger? Do you think that's fair? The people around her, fans and colleagues who saw Liao-sensei as kind and strong, just like the characters in her books, began to wonder if she was neglecting her parents. The cyberbullying, defamation, and inability to cut ties with her toxic family made her depression worse. If it weren't for all of this, she might not have died so young. In the present, Li Shulai snapped out of his thoughts and asked Liao Kexin, Can I have your email? Surprised, Liao Kexin asked, Why do you need that? Li Shulai smiled and replied, I want to keep in touch with you in the future. If you become successful, don't forget about me.